Okay, we're rolling. Welcome,
O-
David and Diane from British Council Singapore, who will be guiding us today.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Caroline, for setting up this session. And thank you, everyone, for coming at this time. Just to let you know, and I know we've talked about this already, but it's on the video, so this session's being recorded. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. Okay, so for today's session, so I've realized I'd not introduced myself and I'm meeting some of you for the first time. So my name's David from the British Council. I've got Diane from the British Council here as well today. So she's going to be playing a very important role today. She's going to be my student. And she also works on the adult engagement for the British Council. So for today's sessions, the aims, as you know, we're talking about grammar. So we want to talk about what your student needs to know about grammar, and we're looking at creating context and purpose in grammar lessons. So that's the aim. For today, we're going to have a demonstration lesson, so similar to previous sessions. Then we're going to have a kind of lesson review where, depending on time, we will ask you questions or we'll run through some ideas. And then there'll be a chance at the end for you to ask any questions. Okay, so just to start with, I wanted to go through where to get resources because I know this is something that lots of people need. So obvious thing is a Google search. And I'm just going to show you very quickly the British Council Learn English website, which is where I've taken the resources for today from. Okay, so basically all I would do is search for British Council Learn English, and this is for teaching grammar. So in the British Council Learn English, I've got to move a few cameras out of the way. There's a grammar section, and it's split up into different levels. Just click on it once as I'm finding out, or don't click on it actually. So you've got the different levels here. So you can choose any of those depending on your students. For today, I'm actually going to click up on the Learn English Teens. So these materials were developed with teenagers in mind, but I quite like them because they got videos to introduce the grammar. So again,
yeah, you might find that your students actually enjoyed watching those more in preparation because they're going to do this beforehand, aren't they?
Yes, that's yeah. So they may well watch these videos beforehand. So you've got grammar, vocabulary, there's skills here. Today we're looking at the grammar, and after my previous lessons, I think Diane's a beginner and she actually needs a little bit of help with the present simple for today. So there's loads of different topics in there. We're picking on the present simple for today. All of these kind of bite-sized bits are quite similar. Normally there's a video which presents the grammar in context. Okay, so I'll just show you the video, and I'm actually gonna I'll show you the worksheet that I've prepared as well. Okay, so this is the worksheet that I would have emailed the student or sent via WhatsApp or however you contact your student beforehand. So we're talking about our week, and then we'll start my lesson. So Diane has just come in. Hi, Diane.
Hi.
How are you?
Okay.
Have you been busy today?
Oh, very.
Are you usually busy on Mondays?
Mondays is a very busy day.
What do you normally do on Mondays?
I have lots of meetings and
okay.
Yes, lots of work.
Okay, and do you have meetings on Tuesdays?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, and what do you do during your weekends, Diane?
I work.
Yes, we're actually very busy at the weekends. It's our busiest time. Okay, okay. So Diane's okay. So thank you, Diane. I'm just gonna share my screen with you again, Diane, and then we're gonna watch a short video. Do you like videos, Diane?
Yes.
Okay, cool. We're gonna watch a video about Busy Daisy. So,
Like me.
like Busy Diane, yes. So Daisy is talking to her brother, Oliver, and his best mate, Alfie, about her new boyfriend.
Mate.
So it's his friend. Okay.
Thank you.
So I want you just to listen and tell me if she is happy with her new boyfriend, and then why or why not. And Diane, because you're not actually a beginner, I'm going to set you a few tasks at once. So my other tasks, I'll show you the questions again. So the first one, you should be fairly straightforward. Is Daisy happy with her new boyfriend? Then the other questions for you, Diane. What does Daisy have on Mondays? What does Daisy's boyfriend watch? Sorry, when does Daisy's boyfriend watch black and white films at the cinema? And why don't they see each other on Saturdays? So your student should have this to refer to, whether you've emailed it or WhatsApped it to them before. If they don't have it, you could show it here, but you're going to lose the video. I'm going to share the video with you again, and I'm just going to play the video once. For a student, a genuine student, I would play it once for the first task and another 1 or 2 times probably for the second task. Okay, when you do videos on Zoom, if you're sharing it, the audio, you just need to tick a little box in the bottom left. So hopefully you'll be able to hear the audio. If you can't, you'll need to let me know. Are you ready, Diane?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, how's it going with Jack?
Not great. I mean, I like him a lot, but it's impossible. During the week, I have swimming practice on Mondays. I do taekwondo on Tuesdays and tennis on Thursdays.
Do you see him on Wednesdays then?
No, he watches black and white films at his cinema club on Wednesdays.
Yeah, and they're not just really old films, Alfie. They watch foreign ones with subtitles too.
Well, there's always the weekend. Do you go out together at the weekends?
That's just it. It's tricky. He works in the bookshop all day Saturday, and he goes out with his mates from the book club on Saturday evenings.
Whoa, book club. So he loves old films and books. Does he like sports?
Not really. He thinks chess is a sport. Well, he watches football on the telly sometimes, but he doesn't play any sports.
I think you're right. It's impossible.
Right, I'm late. See you later.
See you, Daisy.
Okay, so Diane, do you think Daisy is happy with her boyfriend?
No.
No. Why not?
Busy.
Busy. Yes.
He's
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah, he's busy. Okay, good. Okay, and I'm gonna share the questions with you again because I can't remember them. Okay, so I don't know if you remember this, Diane. What does Daisy have on Mondays?
Oh, taekwondo?
Taekwondo, wasn't it?
Swimming.
Swimming. Yes.
Swimming.
So Daisy goes swimming on Mondays. Good. And when does Daisy's boyfriend watch black and white films at the cinema?
Wednesday.
Good. Can you say it in a full sentence?
He watched black and white films at the cinema on Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah, you're right for your listening. Okay, and why don't they see each other on Saturdays?
He work.
You work. Yes, so he's at work. Yes. Okay, so well done on your listening. You heard all of the right answers. Good job. Today we're looking at how to talk about our week or daily routine. So to do that, we need to use the present simple. So when we use these, does Daisy go swimming most Mondays, or is it just one Monday she goes swimming?
Many Mondays.
On many Mondays, good. And does Daisy's boyfriend watch black and white films at the cinema on many Mondays or just one Monday?
Many Wednesdays.
Yes, many Wednesdays, thank you. Okay, so I want you to have a look at exercise C. So the above sentences use the present simple. We use the present simple for things we do once or for repeated events, for many times.
Once is one, yes? One.
Yes.
Repeated.
Good, well done. So hopefully you'll have that highlighted on your own paper as well. Okay, well done, Diane. Okay, so these are some of the sentences we heard. I like tennis. He thinks chess is a sport. Can you say this for me, Diane?
He thinks chess is a sport.
Okay, yes. Good. He doesn't play any sports.
He doesn't play any sports.
Good. Okay, so notice here, I like. He thinks.
S.
Yes, well done, Diane. So it has S when it has he. So when we form the present simple, we add an S when it is when it is he. What about for she? Do we add S?
Yes.
Yes, so she thinks. I
Think.
good. You
Think.
good. We
Think.
good. They
Think.
good. Well done. Okay, so I've got some sentences down here with some words missing. So in these, I want you to use the verb play. So I something tennis on Mondays. What goes in here?
Play. I
Yes.
play tennis on Mondays.
Okay, so for your students, you'll probably want to get them to write this. But I think Diane, spelling is okay for Diane at the moment. Okay, good. And what about number 2, Diane?
He plays.
Plays. Good, well done. You remembered the S. Nice. Have a go at number 3.
Play. We play tennis on Tuesdays.
Good. Well done. So this is how we form the present simple. Now, what about, do you play tennis on Mondays?
No.
Do you, Diane?
No.
Okay. Can you try longer?
I do not play tennis on Mondays.
Very good. So I do not. I do not. Don't, yes. When we're speaking, we often use don't. So I don't play tennis on Mondays. Now, Diane, does your best friend play tennis on Thursdays?
She doesn't play tennis on Thursdays.
Very good. You've done this before, Diane. Okay, and when do we play tennis on Wednesdays?
We don't play tennis on Wednesdays.
Good. Okay, good. So we got positive sentences for yes, and these sentences are no. No, I don't play tennis on Mondays. Questions. Question.
Do I play tennis on Mondays?
Okay, good. Do I play tennis on Mondays?
You.
Good, Stan. Excellent. Do you play tennis on Mondays? Question number 2.
Do he play tennis on Thursdays?
Okay, let's get that down. That's a great start. On Thursdays. Do he?
Does
He? Very good, Diane. Question 3.
Do we play tennis on Wednesdays?
Excellent. Well done. I can't remember the day. Was it Wednesdays? Okay, good. So we got positive sentences where we say yes. Oh, sorry. Positive sentences where we say yes. Negative sentence we say no. And questions. This is John's diary for every week. John does on a Tuesday. John WhatsApps his family. John's wife also WhatsApps her family on Tuesdays. Can you tell me what other activities, John, what does John do on Monday? Just tell me.
Reads a book.
Yes. Okay. What else could John do on, what could he do on Friday?
Go to the bar.
Okay, so we got John's diary. With your students, you could fill in more spaces if you want to review vocabulary. So for example, if you've done sports last week, you could ask them, oh, what's that game where you hit it and recycle some vocabulary. I'm not going to fill this all in for now. Okay, Diane, could you tell me about John's week? What does John do on Wednesdays?
On Wednesdays, he watches TV.
Good, he watches TV. Good. What does John's wife do on Saturdays?
On Saturdays, she relaxes.
He relaxes. Can you say relaxes?
Relaxes.
Good. Okay. And what do they both do on Tuesday?
They WhatsApp my family.
Well, they WhatsApp Diane's family? Diane, do you know John?
Their family.
Good.
Families.
Yes. So yeah, they WhatsApp their families. Very nice. Okay. And does John WhatsApp his family on Thursdays?
No, he meets boss.
He meets boss.
The boss.
Yes, okay, meets the boss. Very nice. Okay. Okay. Can you ask me a question?
What does John do on Fridays?
John goes to the bar on Fridays. Okay, so we could carry on depending on how much your student understands and how well they're getting it. It's important to do ones they can ask them questions they can answer yes to, questions they can answer no to, and get the student to ask questions as well. Okay, Dan, you've done a really good job on that. Well done. I want to find out a little bit about a usual week for you. Now, last lesson, I asked you to bring a photo. Did you bring a photo? I suspect no. No. Okay. Sorry, Caroline, you're on mute. I can see.
On the photo.
You're the photo. Okay. Okay. So Diane, you've got your friend Caroline in the photo. I'd like to know a little bit about Caroline. Can you tell me about Caroline?
Caroline works on the computer. She is very nice. She plays the guitar, the violin.
Ukulele.
Ukulele. She plays the ukulele.
And when does Caroline normally play the ukulele?
Every day. She plays the ukulele every day.
Okay, we're gonna say that's right. And okay, does Caroline cook at the weekend?
No, she doesn't cook at the weekends.
Okay.
She likes restaurants.
What food does Caroline like?
She likes lots of food. Lots of food. Chinese food, Indian food. She likes lots of food.
Okay, and did she normally go to a restaurant on Saturday evening or for lunchtime on Saturday?
She goes in the evening.
In the evening, okay. So we could ask more questions about this, particularly photos are really powerful for, especially if they're, for example, photos of people that their family, maybe colleagues at work where they know the routine really well. And you can use them for loads and loads of grammar points. Okay, so I actually didn't give Diane a choice here, but with your students, you could just say, okay, we got two choices here. I'd really like to see a photo of someone you know well, and then we can talk about a normal week for them. Or if you don't have a photo, that's okay. We can just talk about a normal week for you or your boss. The thing to be aware of here, if they're talking about themselves, they're limiting themselves to just I. So it's good to give them a choice, but perhaps you want to guide them a little bit. So for me, I think you would know your students, but I think you probably have a good relationship with them, so they would be willing to share photos. So this would be the one I would personally much prefer. If they're more interested in business English, perhaps you want them to talk about their boss and their daily routine at work as well. Okay, so thank you, Diane. I will let you know your homework once we've consulted about what your homework should be. You did a really good job today. Do you feel confident talking about your week? Are you happy talking about your week?
Yes.
Good. Okay, thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Okay, so how did we lead into the topic? Let me.
With the video?
With the video? Yes. Yes, so the video set up the context for the topic. So
Before that, there was a question that he asked the student beforehand. What was the question he asked? He asked me. Because he asked me about my weekend, didn't he? And he also asked me about my day today.
So that first section was one, to build rapport and make sure your student is okay emotionally, because I know there's a lot going on for them at the moment. And then secondly, it also acts as a lead-in, because I was asking about what Diane usually does in the week. So it's a good way of kind of showing there's a need for the grammar, because Diane struggled to talk about her week, and then say, okay, that in today's session, we're going to talk about our week. So it's, you kind of create a gap where there's a hole where they realize they don't know something. And then in the lesson, you kind of fill that hole. Okay.
I remember you asked her, do you usually have meetings on Mondays? And she said yes. And then you asked about Tuesdays, and it got a little iffy. So it was that kind of lead in saying, okay, you've asked me questions and I know what I want my answer to be, but I don't know how to make that answer.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, so it's good to create that space. Why was this lesson being taught? Oh, I'm not sure I actually communicated this actually. Maybe Diane, I don't think I said this actually, did I specifically, but I should have done.
Yeah, because we had spoken about it before we did started on the demo.
Yeah.
So we had said that usually you would pick up from something that a student had demonstrated through conversation, that you found that there's a gap, that there's a gap in the knowledge. And so you teach to the gaps. And so it's something they need, which was demonstrated again, as Caroline said, when I didn't answer the question quickly enough. It demonstrates that I'm unsure or unclear. So that's a good point. But you could at that point say, you know, right, so we're going to look at talking about your everyday routines.
Absolutely, Diane. So I should have done that. If I didn't, I apologize.
We'll review the record and see.
I'm on trial here. Okay, the next question is quite interesting because when did I actually mention the present simple or simple present? Did I mention that at the beginning or a bit later on? I'm gonna start picking on people if no.
I think you need to ask
later on. Yeah, a bit later on. Yeah.
A bit later. Okay, thank you, Sandhya and Gamati as well. So I apologize if I'm saying your names wrong. Yeah. So
why do you think we picked up later rather than immediately?
So that they don't panic or they get into the lesson. You introduce it slowly so that they get into the mood of learning it, you know. Just make up their mind or make up their mood to go towards grammar.
Yeah. The naming isn't really important to the students.
Yeah.
The only reason that they might need to know the label is if they need to do some training, if they want to go and check up afterwards or they want to do some more work, then they need the label to be able to find what it is they want to practice. But otherwise, you're right, they don't need to know the labels. They just need to use it and know why.
Okay.
So another way to think about identifying that gap is also creating curiosity for your student. They're thinking, oh, how do I say that? And that makes them motivated to be engaged in your lesson.
Yeah. Okay, and just moving on to the fourth question, did we look at the meaning of the listening or did we look at the grammar first? This should be a straightforward question, I'm hoping. Huimin?
The meaning of the listening.
The meaning, yes. So it's important always focus on the meaning first because we use English or we learn English because we want to communicate and it's the meaning that we need to get across first. Okay, so first we made sure they understood it. And then after that, we looked at the grammar itself. Thank you, Huimin. Okay.
Sorry, can you give an example of how you focused on the meaning?
Okay, so we were doing present simple today. So it was the questions around, does it happen once or does it happen many times and it's repeated? So we could talk about routines as well. Present simple has a few uses, but today we're focusing just on routine, so it's repeated action. Okay. Okay, for the next one, present simple, there's not that much to look at for the form. I would say perhaps Diane would disagree. Actually, now I've said it. As I said it, I'm thinking I disagree myself.
My pet hate. Unfortunately, the S is one of the biggest problems for pretty much every language learner there is. And the S is often missed off for two reasons. One, people can't hear it. It's not enunciated well. And two, it's not used in other languages. That many other languages just have a grammar form, so that the idea of changing the tense, the verb with an S at the end, seems strange. And so that's one of the issues for many people, for many different learners, that the S is missed off.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we looked at the form reasonably quickly, and basically, whenever we're doing grammar, it's really important to look first at the meaning and how it is used, and then secondly at the form and how it is written. So if you're not sure for the form itself, you can just look up on the internet, for example, present perfect form, and there will be lots of things on there, or the British Council under the grammar section has explanations as well. So actually for this, underneath the video I didn't show you, but there's an explanation about the grammar. I didn't really go through that because it's a bit more for self-study, so the student could do that before the session. So when they come to you, they're practicing using it or asking any questions.
And whilst you're talking about that, I mean, if you were looking for something to practice with, especially those of you who are using WhatsApp, you can send in, you can use an emoji, playing tennis, or an emoji, you know the emojis are all different things doing different things. So you could actually use that to practice the S by saying, sending up an emoji that's cooking, for example, and you say he cooks or she cooks or it cooks. So you can practice that as well. I would recommend, though, that if you're doing that, is on Wednesdays, use a time frame so that it makes sense to use the present simple rather than the present continuous.
Yeah, that's a really nice idea, actually, using emojis. I've not thought of that before. Okay, for the control practice for number 6, what was the purpose of the control practice?
Could you remind us what the controlled practice was again?
Oh, yes, fair enough. Let me just share the screen with you very quickly. Okay, so for the controlled practice, this is where Diane was completing the sentences. And then we looked at the positive sentences, the negative sentences, and then the questions as well. Thank you for asking that, Caroline. So what was the purpose of that? Melina?
What was the, sorry, what was the control practice?
Okay, that was where I asked Diane just to complete some sentences. So let me just share that screen with you.
It was like fill in the missing verb in the sentence.
Yes, so now it looks like it's written sentences, but previously, basically the verb was missing.
Okay, so the purpose of the control practice was to check and review whether the student can actually fill in with the correct form of the verb.
Yes, absolutely right. For students, I would normally give them time to write first, so they got basically more thinking time when it's writing. With Diane, I thought she was pretty good at the present simple, actually, so we just went straight to speaking. If they find it difficult, then of course you can give them extra ones. But it's good to start with them writing something because they got a bit more time to think.
And there's a really good point about linking written form with knowledge, because by actually using it, especially if they're writing it, writing is much better. And we can prove these days that from the scans in the brain, that writing the letters, forming the letters and completing a sentence actually helps to anchor that knowledge in the long-term brain. the long-term memory. And that's what we're trying to do for the students. We're trying to lay down the pathways.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this is basically where you'd really focus on any errors with the present simple. So we looked at positive sentences, negative sentences, and questions, because basically for any grammar tense, they need to be able to form the positives. Negative sentences, if you're not sure, just basically means it's got not, or the thing doesn't happen. And question forms are something which we often forget, because we like to ask students questions, but in the real world, students need to go out and ask other people questions as well. So there are a couple of things here. And if students make mistakes here on the present simple, this is really where you need to correct it. If they make mistakes on some of the other areas, it shouldn't really be an issue if it's a controlled practice, because you can see it's quite repetitive in a way. So they shouldn't make mistakes on other things, but I would tend to ignore mistakes on other things unless, yeah, I would generally ignore mistakes on other things.
Yeah, I want to highlight that just quickly. Also, you might have noticed during the lesson, once Diane had done the listening, he was asking some questions to see whether she understood the meaning of the listening. And she didn't answer in complete sentences, or maybe she made a grammar mistake in one of her sentences giving the answer to the question. However, she clearly demonstrated her knowledge of the question. And that's what we were focusing on that time. Did you understand the listening? So we just focus on that. But later here, where we're really focusing on the form, that's where we want to correct the thing again that we're actually focusing on. And the other stuff right now that they made a mistake, we don't want to get too caught up in those extra mistakes and extra correction. It takes us off track and makes the lesson run long, and it's exhausting for the learner. They're like, oh, I never get anything right. Focus on the thing that you're focusing on, and it will be more affirming for your student.
And if you notice that when we were looking at the form, you also get the different explanations of, so he play, he play, he play, he plays. So I realize there's a mistake. And I look for, so the teacher will repeat up to where the error is, so that the student realizes, oh, there's something not right. And then they say, he plays, yes. Or you might say, or you might remind them, you play, third person, and so something to help them if they're not doing that. And also when we were doing the contractions, we used the contractions, so. To this, to do not, don't, I do not, I don't. So using the fingers is very powerful for the students to see where the contractions are. If you're using video, you know, if you're using video.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, it's the error correction and when to correct is quite important as well, as you've both just said. And that's part of the purpose of the control practice. So the control practice, if I share it again, I keep changing between screens. We've gone from filling in a sentence, which is very, very controlled, to this is more of a semi-controlled practice. With your students, you may want to get them to write down about John's week if they need a bit more time and a bit more confidence. Really, you know your students better than anyone else, so you could fill this in with activities they're likely to do. Doesn't have to be a whole week. I could have done a day if I wanted. The reason I kept it a week was because previously it was a week. But if your student is very strong, they already have this kind of understanding, then you could change that a little bit. And then we ended up with the freer practice. So just, you can hopefully see it's going from something which is very, very controlled to a little less controlled to a lot more freedom. So this is more the kind of genuine communication where they would actually, something this would be they naturally do with the language. Okay, I'm just going to go back to our questions, see if there's anything else we need to cover quickly. I think for question 8, I think, Diane, you kind of answered this a bit before. What would you do before the class?
I would have set watching the video before the class. And probably if you are, it depends on how organized you are. If you already know in the previous lesson, during that lesson, that you want, from the conversation you have, you know that they're going to work on the present tense at your next session, then try and talk to them a little bit, first of all, to get some of the language ready in their head, and then set them the homework of the video with the worksheet, so that they have tried it at home, and then they can work through with you and maximize the amount of time they have with you, because really what they want to be doing with you is spending as much time as possible speaking. The writing, although it's fine for you to do it with them, it's better that most of your time is being spent on the production of language, and the written, that they have time to do the writing at home, in their own time, and then show it to you. From my point of view, I think it's better that they get all your speaking production opportunity.
Yeah, because it's quite a focused lesson on the grammar, so that they can speak about their weekly routines. I'm just curious, if we had this lesson with the student, how would people follow on from this lesson? What could you teach them next? Or how could you extend it? This is possibly a tough question, so I'm going to pick on someone in a moment. Okay.
You're asking about what the next lesson could be? Yes,
that's right. Yes.
Okay, maybe we could go with used to or past tense.
Okay. What would make you say used to or the past tense?
Something that they were used to doing in the past, but which is not being continued now.
Okay. So that's certainly one option. The past simple, it would be something else you could follow.
I think for Gomti's case, she's thinking of her student who's, I think, pretty advanced. So it's the match of routines. So we're
okay.
routines in the past tense.
Okay, thank you, Caroline, for clarifying that.
I mean, it really depends on the level of the student. If you had an advanced student who still gets the third person wrong, okay, which is fairly common, you may well want to contrast the used to or the would. When we were children, we would meet, we would meet in the playground. We would have picnics in the park, talking about something that was true then that's no longer true.
That's another topic which is photos are great for, because if you have a photo of yourself as a child, then naturally you're talking about what you used to do when you were a child, and you can do the same thing with the student if they got a photo of them either when they were a child or when they lived in their home country. That lends itself naturally to using used to or would. So photos, I love using photos in classes, and I think for many of you, I would guess your students do have photos.
On their phones, perhaps, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna ask 2 more people. Caroline, how would you follow on from this lesson?
On the spot. Okay, in terms of homework or in terms of the next lesson, I guess the next lesson, I might compare it to the present progressive. So I try to have 2 things happening at once with my students, meaning this is what I'm doing now, but this is what I usually do at this time. For example, right now I'm sitting in the MADWISH workshop, but usually I eat dinner.
Yeah, I can relate to that one. Okay, any other volunteers? Otherwise I shall ask Diane. Diane, how would you follow on?
It depends. If it's a low-level student, and they are looking to use the present tense in a work-related field, I might then use the present simple to work on vocabulary suitable to talk about a daily routine or the jobs that are required for a particular, the tasks that are required for a particular job. So it works quite nicely because the present simple is also a general topic about fact. You know, this is what we do this, we do this. So it would lend itself to that as well.
Yeah, and like job roles, for example, a supervisor supervises or going through their routine. Interesting, because I would probably do adverbs of frequency, like usually, often, sometimes. So it's interesting though, and it's a good thing that we got 3 different teachers, 3 different answers. Hui Min, I see you put a hand up.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
So I wish I had attended this earlier, because actually we've done present tense and we've done continuous tense.
Yeah.
And past tense as well. And I feel like I organized the lessons by the type of tenses, but I'm not really sure that's the most useful for the student after I've heard what you've had to say. So do you think there might have been gaps there that I can now fill in, that people would tend to miss if they had done it in that way, you know?
That's a really good question, actually, and it took me a few years to work this out. But I realized it's not so much about teaching the grammar, but more what they can use the grammar for. So from the student's perspective, after a lesson like this, I would want them to know that they could talk about their weekly routine, not that they, ideally I'd like them to know they can talk about their weekly routine using the present simple. But if they only remember one thing, I'd like it to be weekly routine rather than the wording present simple.
Yeah, Huayman, it's a very good point. I mean, basically, we want the students to be able to function. And so the functional language is what's important. So if you can imagine the kind of situations they are likely to find themselves in, then often you go from the situation, and that will lead you to the grammar. Because you need certain grammar in certain situations. So for example, a job interview, you use the present perfect to talk about, and the past simple. So or maybe let's start with this. Let's lower level students then. So I have worked in education for 30 years. Okay, so that's present perfect because I'm talking about generally, there is no specific time. Yeah, it's unspecified time. Somebody would then ask me, where did you work? And I would say, I worked in, so as soon as the time is known or the place is known and I'm thinking of a specific situation, then it becomes a past simple. So that it's the situation dictates the grammar you're going to use.
To speak generally, learning is cyclical, okay? The first time you study something, you didn't learn everything about it. You had to study it again and again, and you probably need to study it again too. Even all of us, even everything that we know. Every time we study this, even we're studying this grammar right now that we've used our whole lives, and we are still learning about it. So there's nothing wrong with going through things again. Students will definitely get something new out of it. And another thing to add that's related is, even if it's a basic topic, it doesn't mean that advanced students don't need it. They will still use it, they still need it, and they still probably make mistakes with it. So there's never anything wrong with going through the same topics again. But it's always good to find a new approach, like Diane was saying, where you find some situation where they will use that topic. And that's how you introduce it without just saying, we're going to study past tense again. And they're like, great.
Yeah. Okay, are there any other questions or things people just want to check or were unsure about?
I had a question.
Mm.
Actually, is using some picture compositions kind of thing, will that help them to speak better? Is it possible for me to correct them as they talk about the picture? Is that useful in the present tense, like simple present tense? Because usually stories will be said in the past tense, isn't it? Yeah. So,
Sanjay, it depends what you're doing with the pictures. So if you're using a picture to encourage someone to speak, then it's not a good thing to correct them as they're speaking. Maybe make a note of the errors, and then and then after they finish talking about it, then share with you the error. And what you do is what is a good thing is to write down the error and see if they can identify where the mistake is and help them to locate the error and fix it themselves. But if you are using pictures to get them to talk, then really what you're doing is you're actually aiming to improve fluency and communication. So I would do the error correction afterwards. Not whilst they're giving you a story. Let them tell you the story. Certainly help them if they ask for the help, but don't stop the flow.
yeah, thank you. But I just wanted to know, using pictures is a good idea for present.
Oh yes, pictures are really great, and depending on what you use, you can actually tell. So, for example, a great one for teaching the present continuous, so the ing form, is actually getting them to watch a football match and they can tell you what's happening. The man is running down he's running down the field. He is passing. So, and for ladies, you might have used a fashion show or something else where there's an activity ongoing, and they can you have the sound switched off. And ask them to describe if you have that ability that's available to you. So you can use actual video, or you can use stills of that, saying what is going on in the picture.
Okay, thank you so much.
I love to use pictures because that's what you have in the real world. You have a visual, whether it's actually in front of you or if it's in your head. So I try to, especially with my lowest level students, I actually avoid writing at the beginning. If it's just the beginning of the lesson or the beginning of the whole course or whatever. And I will primarily let them focus on pictures, maybe write the word on the back. So I try to get them to associate the picture with the English instead of translating the written word something. So if they need to cheat and look at the back, I let them, or in this case, maybe I would flip it for them because of the video.
I used to run a whole lesson with stick figures where this means can. So, and you have a picture of, yes, sorry, it's an old system. I don't use it anymore, but yes, we used to use this whole stick figure dialogue, and I taught my students that did German that for their exam. So, yes, it's a possible. There's all sorts of things to use, but visuals are very strong, very powerful.
I have a question.
Yep,
related to this using pictures. So my student is not very comfortable to speak immediately after seeing a picture. So what I do is I give him a picture and ask him to write. And once he gives that back to me, I correct it and send it, share it back to him. So is this still helpful?
You have, I'm going to say horses for courses. It's one of my favorite sayings. You will find that there are many different learners. And although most learners are communicative, they like to speak first. There are some who will have been drilled quite a lot into looking at the shape first of a word, and they need that support of having the written word. If you have a learner that's like that, then you go with what your learner needs.
Okay.
And you hopefully will be able to wean them away from that, so that they become a little bit more confident with dealing with the picture directly, or or whatever else you're using.
So just to add on, I think with students, if you give them a picture and producing language spontaneously, it's actually really difficult. So I think with let students of pretty much any level sometimes give them some thinking time. So whether it's 30 seconds just to look at the picture, have a think, or perhaps give them 2 minutes and write down notes as well. So if they've got just notes and keywords, that can give them a bit more confidence to speak as well. So they're just a couple of ideas. And just coming back to something about the pictures earlier, Sandia was talking about telling the stories with the pictures. And I completely agree with Diane about correcting it afterwards. And I just want to reiterate what Caroline said earlier about focus on the particular focus for the lesson, the objective. So if it's on present simple, you would just pick up on the errors with the present simple at that stage, because you want to keep focus on that. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I try to do usually. I'll just tell them, I'll just correct the particular tense that I'm focusing on that particular day. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have one quick question.
Yes. Sure.
Ideally, how many sessions or how many hours, given the IRR MADWISH situation, right? How many sessions would be ideal for one particular grammar topic? Because I find that maybe after about 8 to 10 sessions, these people are not able to continue for some reason or the other. So do you think we should just stick to one session of, let's say, simple present, one session of that, move on to the next one, or till the student gets thorough with it, should we continue with that?
Okay, I would look at it in a slightly different way, actually. So for example, today, I wouldn't tell the student we're looking at present simple. I would tell them we're looking at your weekly routine. So perhaps weekly routine, perhaps today in the first session, we do present simple as we did. Maybe the next session, we would introduce some vocabulary and also probably adverbs of frequency as well. So we're building on it. Yeah, so I would focus it more on, for me personally, I would focus it more on functions or things they need to do with the language, rather than just teaching them present simple, because there's actually loads of things about present simple that, and for something like present perfect in English textbooks, students get introduced to it at the beginner level, and it's also being taught at advanced, because there's a lot of areas, so you're never going to completely cover one piece of grammar.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for your question. Just to reiterate, today we looked at present simple, but this is just to give you the idea of going from maybe a reading or listening to set up the context, then whatever your grammar point is, to go from something very controlled to less controlled to kind of freer practice as they would use it in their everyday life. So that's the purpose, that you can adapt this to pretty much any grammar topic, I would hope. Okay. So if there's questions, I'm happy to stay. If not, feel free to go. And Caroline, I don't know if you've got anything to add or.
No, this is good. This is exactly how I would do it.
That's good then.
But I would never forget to say the topic, like using it.
I should look at the recordings. I don't remember saying it. So
I have to read the record.
Maybe you can do a little Facebook quiz. What was the teacher's deliberate mistake?
Yeah, no, for me, I mean, especially the more you get into the lessons with your students, their motivation fades. Not because they're lazy, not because of anything like that. It's just that it gets less interesting. The routine's there, they know what it's like, and they had a long day, blah, blah, blah. So hiding the boring stuff is a bad way to say it, but basically packaging something in some marketing, okay, and especially showing the student why it's useful for them. Okay, we need to talk about our day-to-day life when we're making a plan. Okay, so I want to make a plan with my friend. We're trying to find similar times in our schedule. Okay, well, oh, I can't do Tuesdays because I work on Tuesdays. This is using present simple tense to do something. This is the idea of functional language. So giving your student the reason for learning this grammar, especially as adults, it really helps them to show that there's a good reason for this. It's motivated. Grammar is a tool. They can manipulate it to do whatever they need to do, but the grammar is a tool. You don't just give someone a tool. Here's a wrench. Have fun. You show them what it's for, and the same thing with the grammar. So I think that's the key, hiding the boring stuff.
Agree with you, totally agree with you. So I may also need to make a move. Thank you so much, David and Carolyn. This was a really interesting lesson.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
If you guys want to ask any other questions or talk about things, just contact me anytime, okay?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve and Carolyn.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Fill up the form
Bye.
and send.